I want to give you guys a warning that I think you're already aware of in your own personal lives, but you don't realize how similar everyone else's life is to yours. I know you guys very well. You know me. And we know that each other, we know amongst ourselves, we've been putting stuff off to next week for a solid 2 weeks. You know good and well you've been telling folks, we'll get to it after July 4th. We'll get to it after the holiday weekend is really what you meant. Well, people in our world do that too. People in the media world, yeah, duh, they hardly ever work anyway. But people in the college football and college athletics world have been doing that. So I know this is vague. It's meant to be vague because I'm not talking about anything in particular. I'm just telling you, you know how there have been some drips about potential big news coming over the past, I don't know, like few months. I think the dam's going to start to break because I think a lot of people have been putting things off, big decisions, big buttons and levers they need to push and pull. I think those have basically been put off to this week. It starts this week, and there are going to be a lot of really busy people behind the scenes this week in your world where you work, but also in college athletics. And whomst amongst us knows what will come from that. We're jam-packed high atop a well-done downtown Nashville, Tennessee. If you like your city's medium, you need to look elsewhere. It's been really hot here today. It's Sunday, July 7th, the year of our Lord 2024. We're just flat out going to do it tonight. Top 15 programs in college football. But not for the past 3 years, friends. We've already done that. Jesse, I think we did that like 3 or 4 months ago. Nope, listen up. Tonight, for the first time ever, I am projecting the next 3 years. It's prediction night here. A number of prediction nights are still to come, but tonight's prediction night is your program. Not just this coming year, but the next 3 years. The top 15 in college football. And there are some tough decisions to make, but we'll make them because we're a tough show. We're ready for that sort of thing. I got several what-ifs on the show tonight. I got bold predictions. I got 5 underrated offenses I want to talk to you about. Just would like to ask what's up with USC in a very general sense. What am I going to feel about USC in December? You're a jam-packed show. I didn't even mention all the things we're going to talk about. They're watching us in Sharpsburg, Georgia, Monticello, Indiana, Pine Top, Arizona, Venice, Florida. You really ought to be following me on Instagram and Twitter, especially at LateKickJosh. Let me just bounce you a scenario as we start tonight's show. What if, and this is just strictly a what if, what if there was something really big coming July 19th? I'm not talking about Twisters, although that is coming July 19th. What if they were dropping a really big video game July 19th? What if we already had it? What if we were playing it in the office today? Just a what if, you know? It sure would give us the ability, would it not, to deliver some exclusive, dare I say, behind-the-scenes pieces of content for you at some point this week that you may not be able to get anywhere else. Again, these are just generalities that I speak in, but if that were to happen, that would be pretty wild because, I mean, what is it? It's the 7th? That thing doesn't come out to the 19th, and if we had said game in our possession already, it'd be pretty wild. Anyway, let's dive into the show tonight. I thank you so much for joining us. I want to do something tonight that's probably dumb, especially in July, because I know what this season is and what it isn't. It is not football season yet. That means it is Steve Spurrier trademark talking season. And therefore, anyone who says anything remotely controversial really is like taking a baseball bat to a hornet's nest. But I really don't think what I'm about to say is controversial. I do think it'll be eyebrow-raising in some instances. So, Colin, here's a good, nice edit endpoint for our individual cut on YouTube. I want to look ahead next 3 years, and I just want to flat out call my shot on the top 15 programs in college football. How do we define a program? Well, around Pate State, we define a program as a rolling multi-year blend of your on-field record, so your results, your recruiting, and your portaling, a.k.a. talent acquisition. How good are you at getting good players? How good do you evaluate them? How good do you get them? How good do you develop them? We care about your resources. Don't be broke. No poverty programs in our top 15. And we care about synergy and culture. When we cut your program open, what is it made of? What's the DNA in there? And it's an insane challenge because, as you will see in just a second, or earlier today, I asked a lot of you to do this for yourselves. And as a lot of you found out, after you get past about number 5 or 6, it's not like you run out of programs. It's like you have a big jumbled mess of like 10 or 15 more of them, and you're saying, what order do I put these in? Well, you didn't have to complete the exercise, but I did because we had a show to do live tonight. So here we go. Top 15 programs in college football as I see it over the next 3 seasons when using a rolling multi-year blend of the factors that I talked about there. Georgia, next 3 years, number 1 program in college football. Top staff in the country right now, led by, I would say, the top head coach in college football. They're 42-2 over the last 3 years. They're an elite recruiting program. They're also an elite development program, so you don't have to worry about what happens to the 4- and 5-star talent when it gets there. The potential will be maximized. A lot of them will end up filtering out through the portal, but that's only because there's an excess of talent already there. They've got elite resources. I fully believe in their quarterback room now and in the future, and they've got some of the best internal energy and also program synergy in all of college football. Slam dunk right now to me, Georgia over the next 3 years, number 1 program in college football. Now it gets really fun because this kind of changed over the past, I'd say, a couple of months for maybe a lot of people. What's the number 2 program in college football over the next 3 years? We know who it has been. Who will it be? I was just waiting on you to roll the lower column. That way I didn't have to repeat it. Number 2 program in college football over the next 3 years, it's Alabama. It's the same as we would have called it recently, only there was a coaching change there. So Nick Saban, a legend, hits the exit door. And then a lot of casuals say, no one wants to take over for a legend. Well, here's a little cheat sheet Meemaw gave me. If the legend leaves behind immaculate facilities and a top-notch infrastructure, take over for the legend, especially if you yourself are legit, which Kalen DeBoer is. So the program is top-notch. Recruiting over the past 3 years has been number 1 on average in the country. They will be top 5, I think, now and moving forward because look at how they're acquiring talent already. That was the great unknown. And so if I look at Kalen DeBoer's Alabama and you're telling me, talent acquisition, even if it does drop off, is going to drop off minimally, I don't worry about them on game day. I don't worry about their culture. I don't worry about anything else. In fact, beyond talent acquisition, once you answer that question for me, you may be looking at one of the most high-level handoffs of the baton in the history of this sport from one icon to another guy whose best chapters of his career may be made in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama, number 2 program in the country over the next 3 years for me. We're not going too far before we head up to Columbus, Ohio. I got Ohio State. Right now it's the number 3 program in the country in the coming 3 seasons. I love their positioning because everything's elite up there. The resource pool is elite. They spare no expense, whether it be going and acquiring talent, whether it be being active in the portal when they need to be. Certainly the recruiting is an elite tier. The staff, I would say, is at an elite tier. Facilities, all that stuff. They got all those boxes checked. But here's the thing. They're as hungry as any program in America. So I get all that, which would normally border right up against complacency and getting fat and happy. And there's none of that. Because as folks will tell you, what if they won, Josh? What if they won? Well, they've won a lot of football games, but not the ones towards the end of the season. At least this staff hasn't. And so they're well positioned. They're like a rubber band pulled all the way back and snap. Eventually it's going to snap. Eventually the dam's going to break there, and a lot of the have-nots will become haves, and a lot of the cannots will just disappear, and all of a sudden Ohio State wins them a title, and then you never know. They go on a little Georgia run, a little Bama run. If they don't, it won't be because they didn't have the pieces in place. Let me put it that way. So Ohio State, fully believe in them the next 3 years. They're right up there with the best in the country. Now as we see conference realignment and conference expansion happen, we get to talk about a Big Ten program here, but one all the way out on the Pacific Ocean. I've got Oregon as the number 4 program positioned over the next 3 years in college football. It is very likely you're looking at the next superpower in college football. You know the brand. You know the duck on the motorcycle. You know the 50 million different uniform combos, courtesy of Kenny Farr, big-time fan of the program up there, friend of the program. What you don't know is Oregon, perennial national championship contender. But that's what they are. Now and moving forward, that's what they are. The recruiting piece is in place. The talent acquisition piece with the portal as well is in place. They are becoming, scratch that, they are now the dominant team on the West Coast. It's a problem for anyone else out there, and it's kind of a sidebar, this side discussion when it comes to USC, old Pac-12 schools that are now in the Big Ten. Oregon, over the coming 3 years, will start to show you a lot of the benefits of recruiting like they do and bringing in guys out of the portal like they do. But also, if you were to go out there and you were to have toured the SEC and toured Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten, you would say energy out here feels just like it does down there. Wow, the 1 and 2 deeps on the lines of scrimmage look very similar to what I see over there and down there. Lanning's just built an SEC/upper tier Big Ten program on the West Coast. And you may say, well, duh, they are a Big Ten program. Yeah, but if I would have told you 5 years ago Oregon's going to be in the Big Ten, the first thing you would have said is, man, they're really going to have to upgrade now. The physicality, the rugged wear and tear of that schedule is going to get them. They're going to get folks. They're as built or more appropriately built to withstand that than a lot of the teams that they're going to play. Lanning and his staff, by the way, just now coming into their own. Dan Lanning is a head coach, just now coming into his own. I'd be careful the kind of language I use to describe him because he is not yet what he will be. So we're talking about the next 3 years. I think the next 3 years will look really, really dominant for Oregon, and they'll be in the conversation every year. Hadn't gotten to Texas yet. Where's Texas? Well, they're number 5. I've got Texas as the number 5 program in college football over the next 3 years. They'll be there every year. So we're talking obviously about programs that don't have to build towards a season. They're not window programs. They're every year programs. They're reload programs. Texas recruiting, you see what they're doing. Portal, you have seen and will continue to see what they're doing. Resources, they take a back seat to no one there. Pedals fully down on the floorboard. They'll do whatever it takes to win. The resources being unmatched is only part of it because they've had resources for a long time. They needed to make proper hires. I think they did in Steve Sarkisian. I don't think very many people are questioning that anymore. But also the year-over-year backfilling of the staff. Pay attention to that with the new rules in the NCAA and the new guidelines for who is allowed to be on the field coaching and how fat you can make your staff. Texas is going to be one of the most well-positioned programs in America to benefit from that and not only build roster depth, they've already been doing that in recruiting. Building coaching roster depth is one of the more underrated aspects over the coming 3 years that a lot of the big boys, including Texas, will take advantage of. I'll tell you the next thing to watch for Texas, developing a killer instinct and developing a true dominant identity as a program. They're a step off of that right now. They're not what Georgia's been yet. They're not what Bama's been yet. They went into Bama last year and beat them and showed signs that they're evolving into that. That's got to be a 12-week thing and beyond. That's got to be an every day of the year thing. They're on the doorstep. That's the next thing to do for Texas, kick the door in. But right now, right there squarely in the mix with all the other big-time programs. Okay, and then let me just turn that piece of paper over. I'm going to be so interested to see where you guys went with this. The number 6 program in college football over the next 3 years, to me, is Florida State. They are right there, knocking on the door at being one of the elite programs in America. 24-2 or 24-4 the last 4 years. Recruiting has gone from good to really good to great is the next step that I'm looking for. And the thing about it is you don't have to ask about them. Should I believe in them? Do I have proof? If I'm a prospective player, do I have proof they can win? Yes, you've got it. It doesn't matter if the committee left them out of the playoff last year. You saw them play an undefeated regular season. So you saw them win the ACC. You saw all this. You've seen Mike Norvell. That's not in the future. That's the now. In the future is, do they start stacking seasons like that? I think it's very likely they do. I think it may be likely we haven't seen Florida State's best teams. Does that mean this year? Not necessarily. It does mean over the next 3 years, I think they'll fulfill on that. Are they going to be in the ACC? I have no clue. Wherever they are, I don't care if they're independent. I don't care if they're in the Big 12. Wherever they are going to play about as high a level football, I think, under Mike Norvell as any program in America. And their defining signature moment for casual fans is still ahead. We saw what Mike Norvell did last year, and I think most anybody with a brain is sold on him. But there's a group of people who truly need to see you win a national championship. Or in the modern age, they need to see you win multiple playoff games before they believe you're legitimate. That's coming for Florida State, I believe. It'll be that moment in the mind of the casual fan that they've arrived. They've already arrived. I wouldn't put them number 6 over the next 3 years if I didn't think they've already arrived. So Florida State, as the ACC currently stands, Florida State to me projects as the number 1 program in that conference moving forward. I don't know what moving forward means, but that's where I've got them right now. Number 7, speaking of conferences, let's leave them all together. Oh, almost lost my piece of paper. The number 7 program in college football over the next 3 seasons is Notre Dame, to me. 9+ wins the last 5 years. So they've already been a high-level program. Top 12 class in recruiting, 4 straight years. So they've already been really good. They've been up there in talent acquisition. Future classes, I think, will elevate even further. I think they'll be more active in the portal than anyone thought the University of Notre Dame would be in the portal when it was first introduced to us. Al Golden and Mike Denbrock, as a coordinator pair, is about as good as it gets in college football. And so once Brian Kelly moved on and Marcus Freeman elevated to head coach, the big question was not only what will he be as a head coach, what kind of staff will he put together? Well, here we are a few years later. He's got an incredible staff. They're putting together really solid recruiting classes. They're evaluating and developing really well. They've got maximum flexibility as a program. They're independent, and everyone wants them. So you've got that going for you. Your resources, never a problem there. I think the brand of Notre Dame could evolve. You know what the brand is right now. The brand is they once were a big deal. The logo still means a lot. There's a lot of prestige and tradition, but there's an artificially built ceiling or a self-imposed ceiling on them. Notre Dame, good, not great. That's the ceiling. That's not the ceiling of Notre Dame. In the portal and NIL era especially, that's not the ceiling of Notre Dame. And if you're the number 7 program in the country over the next 3 years, that means you've done more than just contend. Just be happy to make the playoff. That means you've done damage in the playoff. I think Notre Dame could do that. This is the area to me, past number 7. This is the area where we get really, really creative because we can get really, really loose with our opinions. There's not a big gap. I'm telling you guys, between 8 and about 15, there's not a ton of room. So these are interchangeable. But when I put the graphic out later, you're going to see top 10 and not top 10. That's really what you're going to see. Well, here we go. Oklahoma's a top 10 program over the coming 3 years. I got them at number 8. I could be wrong. I could be low on them. There is a big misconception that because their over-under win total is not quite as high as Texas or Georgia, et cetera, coming into this first year for them in the SEC, that they're not a high-level program. They've been a top 10 program already. They've been a top 10 program in recruiting and portaling each of Brenton Venable's first 3 seasons in Norman. There's a reason they just locked him up to a longer-term contract. They've got equity like you wouldn't believe built in that brand already. So benefit of the doubt already goes to Oklahoma. Maximum investment in the program. Jackson Arnold, I got him at quarterback for at least 2 more years. Their win total's low this year because they play a tough schedule. Don't be fooled by that as it relates to what their program is now and moving forward. Energy, check. Culture, check. Intangibles, check. That is Oklahoma football. They've also shown the ability to win big portal battles, like Dom Williams, for example. LSU desperately needed that guy. Frankly, a lot of teams desperately needed help on the defensive line. Oklahoma, when they needed to swing the biggest hammer, they swung it. And in recruiting, they've been swinging it. And on the field, they won double-digit games last year. So in the coming 3 seasons, they could do some very special things in Norman. Number 9 was, I think, one of the hardest ones to do. I had 2 of them that I struggled mightily to place. Number 9 program over the next 3 years for me is Michigan. Michigan just won a national championship, and it's a very, not unprecedented, but borderline unprecedented situation because you have maximum turnover. You got a head coach leave, you got the whole staff leave except for Sharon Moore, who elevates to head coach. I have got a lot of respect for that guy. And I've got immense respect for the Michigan culture and their way of doing things, and you can make whatever comments you want to about last year off the field. I got immense respect for the way that program goes about its business. It's never needed to be a top 3 recruiting program. It'd be nice if they were, but they've never had to be that. So the intangibles of what makes Michigan football are not going anywhere. And if people are counting on that to just fade away because there was a coaching change, I think those people will be a little disappointed. But there's enough unknown around the program that even I have to admit, you got to back off on them a little bit. It's just tough to place them right now. You need proof of product. It could be that halfway into this season, Michigan is playing at a high level, and the first thing out of our mouths is, wow, they haven't skipped a beat. Saban to DeBoer was a big deal in Tuscaloosa, but it looks like Harbaugh to Moore has been a seamless handoff as well. Could be the case. And if it's the case, I'd be happy to be wrong and bump them up a few spots. Michigan football means something to me, though. Not just where they are located, not just what they did last year, what it stands for. And there is an immense amount of pride that will be taken up there in the handing off of the baton, it being taken, and it being carried the way it should. You know, that's why I probably don't sleep a lot, that staff right now, because there's immense pressure in wearing that block M on your chest as the head man. If you're Sharon Moore, dude, that means a lot. That program means a lot. What Michigan is means a lot. That's not fading away. That's still a top 10 caliber program over the next 3 years to me. I'm going to get hate mail, even if you want to write a physical letter to me, but I'm going to get hate responses and replies for this one. That's okay, though. That's okay. I'll be happy to revisit the receipts on this one. If you're listening on podcast and you can't see the screen right now, here's what I'm doing. I think Texas A&M is going to be a top 10 college football program in the coming 3 years because I have maximum belief in Mike Elko, purely looking forward, not what they have been. They've been the biggest underachiever in America for a long time. They've always had the capability to be a major program. I believe that. Some of you disagree. Elko will prove me right on that. He's a top-level tactician. On the field, no question. Game day, no question. But what he did at Duke is he showed the ability to evaluate and develop talent at a high level, and all I'm doing is I'm taking that and I'm dropping it into a bucket with some of the deepest pockets and most endless resources imaginable in college athletics. He won't lose those abilities. That staff won't lose that ability. What they'll do is they'll just put rocket boosters onto what they already are and what he already is. I just add elite resources to it. The hire went under the radar because of the Bama change. Hardly anyone paid attention to what Texas A&M did. They will notice it. They will notice it because he is not having to start from scratch there. In fact, I would argue it may be one of the more enviable arrivals that we've seen in major coaching changes in quite some time. Because Jimbo didn't leave the cupboard bare. Jimbo just didn't fully know what to do with all the ingredients once he had gone and gotten them at the store. Mike Elko does. Mike Elko could win with less than Texas A&M has and will have moving forward. But he won't have to settle for that because they will have everything that they need. I think what you'll come to know Texas A&M as under Mike Elko is a program that recruits really good to potentially great, but then they never get out-coached. They never have guys that fall through the cracks. They're always at a maximum of development. Most of their guys pan out, and you'll look and you'll say, wow, there is not a lot of fat left on the bone with that program. They get every ounce out of it. That'll be Mike Elko. That's how you'll describe him at A&M. Moving forward, there are a couple of programs conspicuous in their absence right now. I know because I'm looking at the live chat. Some of you have already noticed whomst I'm talking about. I put LSU as the number 11 program in America over the next 3 years. Very intentional with this. Brian Kelly, I got no doubt about him. Well-established, ton of accolades, all deserved. We are not an anti-Brian Kelly show. We're a pro-Brian Kelly show. The staff moves on defense were elite. Most upgraded defensive staff in America, to me, is LSU. And while that may not pay off in a top 10 unit this year, it will pay off moving forward if he keeps those guys there. So the moves they made were great. The portal moves they made were not. And that's one mild concern I have moving forward. But recruiting overall is very good, and it will continue to be. Bryce Underwood, as long as something terrible doesn't happen, will sign with LSU, and they'll have the number one quarterback in the country over the coming 3 seasons. I think internal alignment could be better within the program, and that is a multi-layered statement that I don't care to dive into any further, but I think the local beat down there could do a much better job than me at explaining that. I think there are enough questions about this season and what it could mean over the coming years that while I still believe in everything that is LSU, and I've seen them win titles with the last several coaches that have been down there, there's enough wobble in the tire there for me to have them down at a number 11 spot instead of a little bit higher. I'm staying in the SEC for number 12, not because of homerism, but because these are where most of the best teams are. And if I were from Spokane, Washington, I'd probably say the same thing. Tennessee, my number 12 program for the next 3 years in college football. I saw someone hating on this earlier today. Like, why would Tennessee not be there is my follow-up question. Josh Heupel plus a top-level quarterback. What does that mean? 2 years ago, it meant they had the number one offense in the country. Nico Iamaleava is going to be there for a majority, at least, of the next 3 seasons. They made sneaky good portal moves this past season, and I think they'll continue to do that. They're a big player in NIL. They're in a number of the big recruitments out there. They're not far away now. Like, they got that signature win a couple of years ago against Bama, but as a program, I still don't think they've really arrived at the head table, but they're not that far away. The 12-team playoff era for Tennessee will be about as beneficial as any program in the SEC, because they're going to be the kind of program with the head coach they have and the offense they run that has the ability to get red hot in November. Doesn't matter if they have 2 or 3 losses. That's the one you'll find yourself saying you don't want to play. That's the one that'll be the hot team down the stretch. That quarterback, don't want to run into him in the playoff. That's the caliber that Tennessee could be at the low end. At the high end, they don't need to be talked about like that. You may just flat out find yourself talking about him as a national championship contender wire to wire. They have that high-end ability. There are some areas they take a back seat to. In other words, they're not quite elite in all the categories that maybe a Georgia is, but they're plenty close enough to where their best shot is enough to take you down. Tennessee at number 11 or 12. Tennessee at number 12. Number 13. This will go over well. I've got Miami as the number 13 program in college football over the next 3 years. Ultra aggressive in talent acquisition. They've got an ultra-aggressive staff down there. I think it much more blends with what the culture of the Miami program should be than maybe some previous staffs. They've already been trending up. So year 1 to year 2, the record improved. Year 2 to year 3, I expect it to improve again. They're 1 pop year away. That's all it'll take. Mark my words. If they win double-digit games this year, if they win the ACC, if they're in the playoff, if Cam Ward, that big acquisition out of the portal, if he blows up this year, he's the best quarterback in the ACC, that'll be it. That'll be it. They've been selling vision down there. That's what they've been selling. In the portal and recruiting, that's what they've been selling. It's been plenty good enough. They've got really deep pockets. They've got really good resources. They are extremely aggressive in talent acquisition. The big question is, can you get it done once you got the guys on campus? And that is a remains-to-be-seen proposition today. But they're going to get it done. And when they do, all of a sudden that's not a question anymore. And all of a sudden it's selling guys, hey, come continue to be a part of this. It no longer is it, come here so maybe we can do this one day. College football and what Miami means in college football could sound much different 3 years from now than it does today. Today, folks can still take their shots. There may be a day not too far down the road where you don't get to take those shots anymore. So I've got Miami at number 13. That's what having a lot of really good players on campus does. You can have all the other questions you want to. If you got the horses on Saturdays, you got a shot. Number 14, this was the toughest one. So Michigan was the second toughest one. I think this is the toughest one. I put Clemson as the number 14 program in college football over the next 3 years. Toughest program to place to me because I have insane amounts of respect for the culture there. I don't want to just gloss over that. Clemson has a unique culture unto any other program in college football. They've done it a certain way, unlike most any other program in college football. Same guy's been there. Dabo's been there the entire time. High-level coaching staff there. Love some of the moves they just made this past summer and past spring to get guys on campus. They are a 10 to 15 caliber recruiter. That's where their recruiting classes have been landing, in the 10 to 15 range. When you're in that range and you voluntarily neglect the transfer portal, it is tough for me to put you as a program projecting you over the next 3 years above programs that take advantage of all the mechanisms at their disposal. When it's this bunched, and the 5 to 15 range over the next 3 years to me is very bunched, it's very clogged up, and everyone else is taking advantage of the portal and you're choosing not to, that's how you land at 14. And they got a bunch of big games this season. They got an early Hinge game against Georgia, Florida State, NC State. So we'll know a lot, to me, about this particular placement of Clemson over the next 3 years, just in the first month and a half of this season. Clemson at number 14. That was a tough one for me. Number 15, got Penn State at number 15 of the next 3 seasons, college football program rankings. There's just a ton of B to B plus with Penn State. Good, solid program. They are a top 15 staff. I think they're a top 15 recruiting program. They are a top 5 to 15 team in any given year. that's enough to place them at number 15. Big question is there anything that's going to fundamentally change? Is there a noticeable uptick coming for Penn State football over the next 3 years that would warrant me putting them higher than anywhere in the 10 to 15 range? This could just as easily have been number 10 as number 15. That's how tightly bunched I think a lot of the teams are. Is the new offensive coordinator, Andy Koltnicki, is that going to be enough to elevate their explosive play rate, thus giving them a shot in big games against Ohio State and Michigan and the like? Because if the answer is yes, they ought to be higher than 15. There's no slam dunk evidence that's going to happen. So for now, they hold down the 15 spot with a full understanding in the room that there's not a big gap between number 7 and number 15. So Penn State at number 15. Okay, so that's the full top 15. Now, Caleb's asking, where is Missouri? Missouri probably in the 15 to 20 range. I'd ask you this, Caleb. I very rarely do this with the live chat, but I just asked this. All right, so let's take a look at the combination of what I talked about. Let's take a look at on-field performance over the next 3 years. Let's take a look at talent acquisition numbers over the next 3 years. Let's take a look at resource pool, and let's take a look at program synergy and culture. Does Missouri have a better blend over a rolling 3-year average coming up, 24, 25, 26, than one of those 15 do? If you believe that, then they should be in your top 15. I couldn't put Missouri in over anyone in the top 15. Not to say it's not competitive. Missouri probably places in the 15 to 20 range for me. And by the way, that's really good, because I'll tell you what that means. That means on the field, Missouri could they could be 8th this upcoming year, and then 22nd, and then 14th. And that would land them, 16 or 17 on average? So that would be really good. That's exactly where they should be. Like, if Penn State's 15 right now, that doesn't mean they couldn't have a season next year where they're the number 4 team in the country and have a first-round bye in the playoff. It's a rolling 3-year average. That's how that works. So I will look forward to seeing where you guys land on this. Top 15 programs over the next 3 years. What an opening to the show. We just decided to do that today. We just thought, it seems like a calm day, so let's choose violence tonight. Let's just do it. We've got so much more to talk about on the show, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time. I'm happy to have you guys here. Just make sure, let me explain to you guys something. We don't take an off season. We don't even say the word. And there are a lot of folks out there who go seasonal. God bless them. That's fine. The beach is a fun place to be. The mountains are fun places to be. But I know you guys have to work all year. You probably get 2 or 3 weeks vacation, but you have to work all year. So if you don't get an off season, then we're not taking one as a show. We do the show free. It's just college football all year. It probably sounds a lot different than you'd see on the major networks. That's intentional. We don't want it to sound like anyone else's show. If you like it, thank you. All we ask you to do is subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. That keeps the show free. That lets management know that you like what we're doing, and we get to do whatever we want to as a result. And recruit 5 of your friends to do the same thing. Okay, let's talk about big what-ifs. Look across the landscape of college football. This is what-if season. It's July. That's what God made July for. Fireworks and what-ifs in college football, at least. I got a question for you. What if the state of Florida ends up owning college football this year and over the next couple of years? Think about it before you just start yelling. Think about it. Too late for some of you. Some of you are yelling right now. And you ought to just give me a shot. You ought to just let me plead my case before you shout this down. Okay, follow me here. Let's say Florida State and Miami in the ACC. They both have over-under win totals of 9.5, so this is not crazy. Let's say they both are college football playoff contenders this year. So they both have legitimate seasons. Okay, that's one. Let's say Florida doesn't bomb. Let's say they go over their win total and they end up winning 7 or 8 games. And their losses are pretty competitive losses to the point where your doubts are erased about Billy Napier. And they end the season and you say 7 or 8 wins for Florida. Wow, that was really good. And then the momentum starts to build for the coming year. Bookmark that. Let's say Central Florida is the total wild card in the Big 12. Because remember, there's only one Big 12 program that gets to recruit in-state in Florida, and it's Gus Malzahn, and it's UCF. They've been really active in the portal as well. They got the 5th best odds to win the conference this year, and it's the Big 12. This is not normal football. It's the Big 12. Anything can happen. So let's say that stuff starts to happen all at the same time. And maybe Alex Golish over there at USF, maybe they're a player in the G5 ranks. If this stuff starts to happen, which it already kind of has, Florida State's already at the head table. Miami's already trending in the right direction and certainly recruiting at a much higher level than they were under the previous couple of staffs. Florida's recruiting well, too. They just haven't won on the field yet. So if we start adding those blocks, you know what that equals? Number one, it equals an incredible environment in the state of Florida, but that doesn't really affect you as a Clemson fan. It doesn't affect you as an Ohio State fan. You're just kind of watching it from a distance, right? Well, you're wrong, because here's where it impacts you. You guys at Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama or Clemson, you know that you've relied pretty heavily on talent from the state of Florida to make up your own recruiting classes over the last number of years. Bama had a national championship win in 2020 where their entire secondary was from South Florida. Just the most insane thing that really should never happen. Nick Saban or not, that should never happen if the teams in Florida are taking care of their own business. But they weren't. They were all bad. And so teams came in there and just took whatever they wanted, and then you guys took the backups. And I said then, and I'll continue to say, an expanded playoff is not how you balance the sport. Teams in Florida getting their act together collectively is how you balance the sport. Because if most of that talent in Florida does not leave Florida, then you look at rosters like Clemson and Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State, and they don't go to you-know-what. They just lose a couple of big-time impact players per cycle that stay home. So, every Calvin Ridley that doesn't go to Tuscaloosa is one that goes to Miami or Florida State or Florida. And then all of a sudden, over a 2 or 3 year period, the sport looks different. It's like you've shaved the tops of the highest canopies in the sport, and then you've built up the underbrush, and wow, how competitively balanced this looks all of a sudden. Well, what if that actually starts to happen? A million other factors in play in the sport. But what if that were to start to happen? The secret to competitive balance in the sport has been the state of Florida's programs getting their act together for a long time. And then to a secondary degree, Texas, and then to, wait for it, a tertiary degree. That would be California. So the jury's way, way out on California. But Texas and especially Florida, those are the keys. Always have been, always will be. Next, what if? Ooh, the nightmare scenario this is for many, many friends of the program. What if a 12-team college football playoff is filled with more blowouts? That can't happen. Well, it statistically is less likely to happen, but it can. So producer Jesse breathlessly ran into the studio minutes before airtime. This doesn't deserve a paper pop. It's just a thing that happened. He said at least 10 games in the playoff era have been decided by 21 or more points. So it's already been blowout city. Right? Okay, I don't need to tell you that. You already know that. So what's your response? Yeah, we're tired of blowouts. Hey, I was too. We had a difference of opinion, many of you and I, on what the answer should be, but we were all tired of watching blowouts. But I never fell for the straw man argument. The straw man argument was, Josh, aren't you tired of blowouts? And you were waiting for me to say yes so that I would then have to listen to you say, well, I've got the answer. Expand the playoff. More games. Therefore, we'll have to have close games if we have more of them, right? Well, it never mattered to me to begin with, so you guys never got me on that. However, you did get your expanded playoff, so congratulations to all the expansionists out there. You're not bad people. You just think differently than I do on this front. But this is what if time. So my question, my proposition, my scenario, I still don't even know if any of those are the right terms, but my thing that I want to put out there, immunity, is what if we still just have a bunch of blowouts? I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know what the recourse. What do you do? Expand it further? You go from 12 to 18? Probably going to happen anyway at some point. Do we just keep expanding until eventually we're playing like a 24-team multi-game first round, and finally someone goes to overtime tied at 21, and someone somewhere says, ha, told you, look at that, 8-4 Kansas State just won in double overtime. I told you expanding the playoff was the key to more competitively balanced games. But they're still going to get their head beat in against Georgia eventually, aren't they? It's just going to take a month and a half for it to happen. January, I promise, will be fun around here. December will be fun. I'm not gonna poo-poo on the playoff parade when the playoff gets here. That's why I'm speaking my mind fervently about it now. And the third what if that I would like to float your way tonight. Everyone talks about sleeper teams this time of year. Big Ten sleepers, SEC sleepers. We've even talked about ACC sleepers. What if Georgia Tech is actually the sleeper team in the ACC? Their over-under win total is 5.5. So you may hear that and say, that's not even bowl eligible. Why are you talking about them as a sleeper? Remember, not only are you not always what your record says you are in college football, you're not always what your win total says you are either in the preseason. Because some of us play really difficult schedules. This is worth a paper pop. Georgia Tech this year plays Florida State in Ireland. They play Notre Dame. They go to Louisville. They go to Virginia Tech. They play Miami. They play NC State, and they go to Georgia. Oh, well, what would your over-under win total be if you had that schedule? Liberty. And so, yeah, they got a low over-under win total. And I got news for you. It's juiced to the under, so it'll probably go down to 4.5. I don't care because I think it's a rapidly improving program. Brent Key and the guys last year had their first winning season in 5 years, and they had close losses to Georgia and Louisville. And Ole Miss game was close in the fourth quarter, and then Ole Miss pulled away. So there's always that conference or a couple of conferences every year where there's that Tim Brando special, the fly in the ointment team. Doesn't mean they themselves are capable of contending for the conference crown. I don't think Georgia Tech's going to be in the mix for the conference title this year. I just think they may be able to take a crowbar to a couple of your shins and keep you out of the conference championship game. And once again, like Mimo always said, if you yourself can't win it, Joshua, take a crowbar to someone else's knee so that they cannot win it. Wise beyond her years was Mimo. So yeah, maybe it's Virginia Tech over there. Maybe we're overthinking the room and Virginia Tech's the sleeper team. Or maybe it's another Tech. That would look halfway decent on a t-shirt down there. Maybe it's another Tech. Absent the context, it's probably not such a good idea. More a good monologue than actual idea. We've had amazing traffic this month, guys. I'll talk to you about that later. In the meantime, I got to talk to you about Academy. I just mentioned traffic because I see the live chat over here. Just appreciate you guys. Academy Sports and Outdoors. They were there for you. I know I saw many of you screenshot your receipts, which is the past tense of screenshot for those new. Many of you screenshot your receipts going to Academy Sports and Outdoors over the July 4th weekend and week, and they took care of you. I mean, some of you down near the beach went and bought sandcastle equipment, which even I didn't know they carried. So, golf clap to all of you guys, including some who actually bought golf equipment. Golf clap to all you guys. And look, they're going to stay open the rest of the year. It's not like an Independence Day special. It's not a fireworks stand. It's not like the Bang Bang Lady down on Highway 431 just south of Phoenix City. They stay open all year. And so I ask you to continue to shop Academy Sports and Outdoors all year. And not near Christmas right now, but it will eventually come. You want to get a head start on that? Academy Sports and Outdoors. Fall sports just around the corner. You want to get a head start on that? Academy Outdoors. Do you just want to grill hamburgers tomorrow? Go buy your grill at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy.com if you don't have one in your backyard. And the reason I'm asking you to do this is not just because I randomly had Academy on the mind today. They are one of our exclusive partners. They've been with us for a long time. And you're not paying a dime for this show because Academy pays the freight for you. So that's called a sponsorship in layman's terms. We thank them, and I ask you to visit them. We move along. I'm going to throw this piece of paper back in the stack. It's a paper stack, not a paper pop. We have some terminology we like to use around here, and one of the terms is hinge game. Hinge game is just one of those creaky games that, depending on which way it swings in the season, will have a big impact, and we got to find out which way they're going to swing. And I got 5 of these games, but this is not an exhaustive list, so I'm happy to take feedback from you. We don't normally have hinge games in week 1 because no one knows anything in week 1. But week 1 has a massive hinge game this year. Unique circumstances. Miami goes to Gainesville in week 1. They go to Florida. Miami at Florida in week 1. And we've got a line on this game. FanDuel, sure enough, has a line on the game. If you haven't seen it, what do you think it is? Before I show it to you, before I say it, Miami at Florida. This game's in the Swamp. At 3:30, it's a if they die special. Probably 107 degrees before you factor in heat index. Who do you think is favored? The answer is Miami, -2.5 at FanDuel. You can bet that right now. Ironically, unless you're in the state of Florida. But do we think that number is going to stay there? I don't know, and it's not Friday Night Lines right now, which is one of many reasons you should follow on Instagram at LateKickJosh. Oh, Friday Night Lines, how great is that going to be this fall? But this is about Hinge Games. Do you understand how toxic things are going to get for the loser of this game? Way too toxic. Way too toxic. Because it's one game. It's an out-of-conference game. Everyone's hopes and dreams are still in front of them, no matter if they win or lose this game. Candidly, personally, I think this game is not a must-win. It's more of a must-win for Florida than Miami, in my opinion, and I'll talk about that in August. But be that as it may, if Miami loses, Mario's just going to hear a whole lot of the same thing. You can go get the players, but you can't win with them. If Florida loses, it's going to be, well, first of many, bowl season out the window for us this year. Fire Billy. Blue chip Billy? No. Sunbelt Billy. It's going to be gross, toxic. Luckily, I'm not either one of those guys, so I don't have to worry about it personally, but it's going to be a Hinge game. An unprecedented Hinge game in week 1 nonetheless, but it's going to be a Hinge game. Now I go to week 9, which is where far more often than not the Hinge games are, the middle to latter portion of the season. Week 9. You know who plays in the Big Ten in week 9? Nebraska at Ohio State. Now, Nebraska's over-under win total is 7.5. Nebraska may be favored in all 8 games before they play this one in week 9. And I don't think many people realize that. Favored doesn't mean a whole lot, especially given Nebraska's recent history in one-possession games. I understand if you want to make that point. However, statistically, that's got to turn over sometime. So I'm going to read this to you right quick if you're listening on pod. UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois. That's a Friday game against Illinois. At Purdue, Rutgers, at Indiana. That's the first 8 games before they go to Ohio State. Now, they go to Ohio State, they'll be a sizable underdog, even if they're undefeated. And even if Ohio State's already lost, like to Oregon, they'll be a double-digit underdog, I believe. But here's the thing. What if they pulled that out? Or what if they just played them close? I'm a believer that in a season like this, Nebraska can lose that game and win. They can't lose it 52-3 and win. But if they lose it 35-31, they go in there and go toe-to-toe with Ryan Day and Ohio State, who will settle for nothing less than a national title this year. Nebraska as a program is kind of sort of off to the races. Oh, and by the way, if they were good enough to hang close with Ohio State that day, probably means they're good enough to challenge for a spot in the Big Ten championship game. Even if they're not, even if they're just a good, solid 8-win team this year, that's really good sign. Because it also means they rode a true freshman quarterback in the process of doing that. So that's a big Hinge game. Because also Ohio State will have already faced Oregon, and they'll still have a trip to Penn State and a home game against Michigan to round out the season. So that's certainly not an affordable slip-up spot for Ohio State, whether they're undefeated or not. So I think Nebraska at Ohio State, one of the bigger Hinge games in the Big Ten this year. Back to the ACC for an actual conference game. This one's easy to see coming. Clemson at Florida State, week 6. Huge Hinge game. It's not a division game anymore because we don't have divisions. So they could play again. So it's not a knockout game. And that's a good thing. We like that. That's a good move by the ACC. This is a chance for a trend reversal for Clemson because the trend has been Florida State on the way up, Clemson on the way down. One of them uses the portal constantly. The other one can't even speak the word portal without having to wash their mouth out with soap. Well, here's the thing about that. As long as you play, we get to find out. We get a referendum. Florida State won this thing last year. If they win it again, then the chorus only intensifies. Dabo, you got to change your ways. Mike, you got it figured out. Keep rolling. Keep doing what you're doing, buddy. But if they go down there, if they go into Doak, if Clemson goes into Tallahassee and they win, probably as a point spread underdog, then Dabo gets to go to the podium. Not only does he get to do that grin that Dabo does when they win, and we've seen a lot of it over the years. Sometimes I enjoy it, sometimes I don't, depending on if I picked him or not. He gets to go to the podium, and he would never say this. He's far too classy to say it. But imagine if Clemson won the game in Tallahassee, and Dabo goes to the podium and says, wow, not only did we beat Florida State's recruits, we beat all those transfer players. And, you know, we may not use the portal a whole lot, but we sure do know which players to let hit the exit door, because in this scenario, they just beat their old quarterback, DJ Uyunglele. Again, Dabo would never say that. It'd be a very mean thing to say, but he could be in a position. He could be in a position to told you so to death. So, depending on where you fall on that, that's a big Hinge game. I got one in the SEC. I don't know if you guys realize, Georgia's got a really hard schedule this year, and it's being masked because Florida's got the hardest one this side of the NFL. Georgia's got one of the hardest schedules in college football this year. By the time they play Ole Miss in Week 11, Georgia will have already played Clemson, at Alabama, Auburn, at Texas, and Florida. That's just the games they already will have played. Then they play at Ole Miss before they turn around and play Tennessee the next week. So that is a far cry from what life in the good old SEC East used to serve up on the platter for Georgia. So this is a Hinge game because, unlike Georgia, Ole Miss has got a very manageable schedule. I think if you were to tell me they beat Georgia, they're in the SEC championship game. That's what I would think. Because elsewhere on this schedule, they got back-to-back road games at South Carolina, at LSU, a bye week, then they play Oklahoma. They go 2 out of those 3 and then beat Georgia. They're in the SEC championship game. Like, to me, that's a no-brainer, unless just massive amounts of injuries pile up. But as for Georgia, what do they look like? They undefeated by the time they go to Oxford? They're a 1-loss team? Could they be a 2-loss team? Just gasping for air, knowing they have do or die, like back against the wall, no room for error, like any of those scenarios could be the case for Georgia here. It's not a typical Georgia schedule, guys. They could be a really, really good team this year and lose 2 regular season games just because they play a bunch of really, really good teams. So that's a big Hinge game. And then, because I will not do one of these segments without talking about our dear friend, the Big 12, America's College Football Conference, Kansas State goes to West Virginia in Week 8. What is this doing on your list, Josh? Well, the simple answer is it's my list, so I have a constitutional right to make it however I want. But also, I think it's a Big 12 schedule, and it's a Big 12 special in terms of schedule. The Big 12, it's just pure demolition derby, so anyone can win the thing. There's no elite team. There's several really good teams. It's like a Tier 1's got 9 chairs at the table. So that means you just have this incredible conference slate. And unlike the SEC, where you circle Georgia versus Texas, there's not that kind of game in the Big 12, but there are a whole bunch of like Tier 2 type games. So here's the schedule dynamics. When Kansas State goes to West Virginia in Week 8, Kansas State will be in the second leg of a back-to-back road stretch that takes them to Boulder, Colorado, and then all the way over to Morgantown, West Virginia, back-to-back weeks. And by the way, they play Kansas the next week. No bye in between all that. So it's a really, really tough. It's one of the rare back-to-back road letdown / look-ahead rival sandwich spots in college football. One of the great, I am not even going to pretend to say that again, but it's one of those great situations. And then West Virginia, if that's not enough, West Virginia's in the middle of a 4-game stretch here where they go at Oklahoma State, then Iowa State. They play Kansas State, and then they go to Arizona. Their season will be made one way or another there. And you know what? Had they not had the bye before Oklahoma State, we could have added Kansas in there. They play Kansas before they played Oklahoma State a couple weeks later. So the Big 12's so beautiful. Why won't you guys just latch onto the Big 12 like me? I've got time to recruit some of you. I've got time. It's America's College Football Conference. It doesn't have to have a bunch of national title contenders, I promise. It's okay to watch good, solid 3-loss teams play to the bitter end in college football. It's okay. It used to be okay, and it still is okay. We've had amazing traffic this month. I wrote down some of the numbers, but frankly, it's a little boring to read numbers on air, so I'm just telling you, July's been amazing. I'll tell you what I've seen an uptick in. Subscriptions to the YouTube channel. I think it's just because we've been asking for them. Management notices that. I have been summoned to management's house after the show tonight. It could be about anything and everything. Don't know. You guys may never hear from me again, although I don't typically think they conduct business behind a gate, and I will have to go through one to get to management's house. But management notices when you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to keep the show out of management's reach, you got to sub to the channel. That's the best thing you can do because, look, even management won't mess with something that brings management money. Even Meemaw used to teach me that. So I appreciate you guys. All seriousness, numbers are great for July. Keep them going. Recruit as many of your friends as possible. It's everyone's show, not just for a certain few around here. They're watching us in Eugene, Oregon, Robbins, Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas. Got my eye on that hurricane, guys. I expect Cat 2 at landfall. Pulling for you guys. You've been here before. Act right. You know how to handle yourself, and we'll get through this. I have got like a ton of questions that we've been asking this time of year, but I got one here. I need your sage advice on this, especially those of you out west. I need you to humor me for a second. Here's one of the biggest questions to me in the sport this year. How are we going to feel about USC and Lincoln Riley in December? So the whole season's happened. How do you think you'll feel? How will I feel? This is very open-ended because it could go a number of different ways. I've got 3 legs of concern here. The first is just on-field. So I have on-field concern. How are you going to play this season? I've got recruiting concern, which is ramped up significantly in the past couple of weeks. And I've got program stability concerns. Let me hit all of them for just a second here. The on-field's obvious. They start with LSU, and then it's the first year in the Big Ten after that. So they got a game at Michigan in week 3. They got Wisconsin a week later, a very, very rapidly ascending Wisconsin program. They got Penn State coming in there in October. They have got a game at Washington. They've got Notre Dame later in the year. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Ohio State. So they could go 7-5, or they could make the Big Ten championship game, depending on how much that defense progresses. So that's the on-field piece. Their over-under win total 7.5, but maybe they overachieve, according to odds makers. Maybe that happens. That's only part of it. If they go 9-3 or 10-2, I'd feel good about the on-field part come December. Recruiting is another thing. We weren't just guessing when I did that segment 3 weeks ago. I think most of you picked up on that. I mentioned 3 names. 2 of them immediately decommitted. Had a little heads up that was coming. The third's still there for now. So Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibson, the 2 big-time 5-star defensive linemen, and I think one of them's an edge, they've both decommitted. It was going to be tough to hang on to them. Juju Lewis, the quarterback, is still committed for now, but I mean, every day I look at the kid's social media, he's posting pictures wearing someone's shirt other than USC, so who knows what's going to happen there. The class is ranked 24th right now. How are they going to finish this cycle? In fact, what does the program project to be as a recruiting outfit over the next 3 years? Good, really good, great, elite? Where's it going to be? Which leads me to the third part. So, we've never had Lincoln Riley on the show. I don't think I've ever spoken to Lincoln Riley in my life, so I'm certainly not carrying water for Lincoln Riley here. I will say, when I get feedback from people around the USC program, it's almost like they say, you got a minute? When they're trying to describe what it's like around there, you got a minute? My whole thing with USC is you need to act like USC. So, USC was thought to be one of the big players. When you find out the portal is going to overlap with NIL, do you remember how big a giant people thought USC was going to be? Because Hollywood, Southern California, in the NIL era, think about what we can sell. Well, that's great. That looks good on marketing materials. But if you don't have your you-know-what together behind the scenes, if you don't have the right people making decisions, I ain't talking about the head coach there. I'm talking about the people above the head coach. If you don't have that in order, if you don't have your finances in such a way, if you don't have your donor class equipped to participate in such a way that it leverages NIL, what in the world does NIL mean as it relates to USC? So I look at USC right now, and I look at these other big-time programs. I don't think USC is anywhere close to touching what Texas is or what Ohio State is behind the scenes. Oregon, they could not tote Oregon's jock in NIL right now. And the reason is not because they're poor or they're broke, quite the opposite. It's just because you take for granted that, well, once NIL is a part of the equation, USC will dominate. No, they won't. USC won't do anything without acting like USC. I don't mean act like USC as of recent. I mean act like USC that I knew when I was growing up. Pete Carroll, USC. terrified, scared to death, like pee down the side of your leg when you see them line up across from you, USC. That's the USC I grew up watching. It hadn't meant that in a long time. Could. I readily will admit to you, I look around and like this era should be in USC's wheelhouse. Look at what Texas is doing. USC ought to be what Texas is. Texas is just skyrocketing. Why? Because, well, number one, they're fully aligned behind the scenes, and I don't want to just overlook that because alignment is the name of the game. But then number two, they've realized, wow, like everything about the sport's built for us right now. It's a launching pad. Let's just position ourselves on it. There's the launching pad at USC, too, and everyone's standing over there going, I don't know. Well, get out of the room then. Get someone in the room that does know. So I am hard on USC sometimes. Casuals mistake that as me hating on USC when it's the total opposite. I'd love for them to be dominant again. I'd love for them to be elite. They're not going to be at this rate because they don't have themselves in line administratively, and I don't think they have themselves in line top to bottom as a program. That program extends so far beyond just the players and the coaches. I mean, if I'm the head coach there, one of the first things that you do, if you take over a job, one of the first things you do is you're introduced to like 10 to 20 people who are the difference makers in that market and in your program. It doesn't matter if you're the head coach at Clemson or at USC. It's the same way. Some places, those people are just all singing from the same hymnal, and it sounds great because when everyone's singing from the same hymnal, it's just one universal chorus, and at that point, you're just a freight train with 100 cars moving the same direction. Other places, it's disjointed, and some alto thinks he's a soprano, and this dude over here should just be mopping the floors, but he's trying to sing baritone. And then my best singers don't even have their mouths open, and that's kind of USC behind the scenes right now. So Lincoln Riley can't talk like that because he'll sound like a whiner if he does. I will. I'll say it for him. So, yeah, it's okay. Lincoln Riley's the face of the program. And he bears the brunt of the criticism, and he makes a whole lot of money, and so that comes with the territory. Having said that, is it totally fair to criticize the guy when he doesn't get what was kind of pitched to him as the reason to come to USC? It is my belief he doesn't have all of that in line right now behind the scenes. Of course, I could be wrong. We move along. Actually, I did want to mention this to you guys. I meant to say this like an hour ago. It is college football preview magazine season. I'm a big believer in the physical magazines. I've bought them for a long time. Protocol around here is you buy the magazine, you open it, and you sniff it. And I saw Anthlon shifted to a different style of paper this year. I was a little disappointed by that. But be that as it may, I buy all the physical magazines. I'm a big supporter of that. But a lot of you guys ask me, which preview magazine should I buy, Josh? And I've told you for a little while now, just within that space, I think a lot of the digital products have met and maybe even surpassed a lot of the store-bought products that you would get off the shelf. And I mentioned a few of them, and one of them I want to mention to you is the guys over at CFB Focus. Their preview magazine is available now. They sent me an advanced copy. Love it. Really easy to understand, easy to digest. It's digital, so you can download it whenever you want to. CFBpod.com. It's cheaper than the ones you'll buy in the store. Same amount of information, maybe more information in some cases than you'll get in the store. So check out a bunch of them, just like the shows. Watch our show, watch a number of shows, but make sure you're up to date on the digital products. Just like in our world, you can go watch TV all you want to. It is my humble opinion, some of the best shows in the college football space are in the digital space now. And likewise, in magazine culture, some of the best preview magazines are not actual physical magazines. They're in the digital space now. CFBpod.com. Those guys do a good job. They didn't pay me a dime. They did give me a free copy. They didn't pay me a dime for that. I like the product. Okay, let us move along. Hey, we got a good segment here. We got a good one that I have a whole lot written down on this piece of paper, because there's a lot you need to know about underrated offenses. Jeff hit me up. He said, give us more football talk. Wish granted, Jeff. He continues, what do you think will be the most underrated offensive unit that will be surprising for the 2024 season? Colin, actually, keep this up, Immunity. Keep this up, because I didn't even come close to reading that the way he wrote it. So for post-edit purposes, Jeff hit us up. He said, What do you think will be the most underrated offensive units that we will be surprised by for the 2024 season? Jeff, I got 5 of them. North Carolina State's the first one. North Carolina State, most anonymous college football program in major Power 4, which is its own side note. I talked about that the other week, but could be the most underrated offense in college football this year. They're a defensive team. You think NC State, you think defense. That's been their identity. Maybe not this year. Grayson McCall transferred there from Coastal Carolina, where it felt like he spent the last decade of his career. He was a 20 touchdown, 3 interception or better quarterback each of the last 3 seasons. So very consistent. You know what you're getting there. Kevin Concepcion is a slot receiver that also runs the ball a fair amount for them. He had 1,000 combined yards last year and 10 touchdowns. He's still there. They're under a second-year offensive coordinator that I think they're ready to do some things under. They got a good offensive line. They added a 5.4 yard per carry tailback out of the portal. They got a tight end that was 3rd in the country in receptions last year. NC State, they've always played good defense there. Defense, maybe not quite to that degree this year. Maybe it's offense that lights it up for NC State. So I've got them. Go down the road a little ways to Knoxville. This should not be the case. I shouldn't have to mention Tennessee here, but our friends over at EA failed to put them as a top 25 offense. And so, man, if we're living in a world where folks are telling me Tennessee's not a top 25 offense, then pop that paper. Tennessee's an underrated offense. They were the number 1 offense in the country 2 seasons ago. And they've added Nico Iamaleava, who I think will be a better quarterback in time than Hendon Hooker was. And that's not to discount the many accomplishments of Hendon Hooker, but Brew McCoy's still there. Squirrel White's still there. Dante Thornton's still there. They added Chris Brazel from Tulane. Huge addition. Big-time addition. They want to keep it quiet, so I'm not saying his name loud. But Chris Brazel II, 6'5", about 200 pounds out of Tulane. Love him. 3 offensive linemen returned, plus they brought in Hurd, the 3rd tackle there at LSU. Going to be a really good offense that will improve week over week this year in Knoxville. And I don't know why it is that people are going to end up being surprised by this. You shouldn't be. Don't ever be surprised that Josh Heupel teams do things offensively. But some of you will be. And I just want this as proof that we did, in fact, try and tell you so. Stillwater, Oklahoma. You're up next. Oklahoma State, all 5 offensive linemen returning. They're all redshirt seniors. They are fully grown men who probably have wives, multiple children, sensible mortgages, and yet they are playing college football still. We're approaching 200 combined starts just on the offensive line for Oklahoma State. Pretty insane. And then I've got the nation's leading rusher in Ollie Gordon returning behind them. But it's not just a bulldozer of a run outfit because they've got Brennan Presley at the slot. They've got Rashad Owens. That's their top 2 receivers returning. Alan Bowman, last year at quarterback, 15 touchdowns. That's okay. 14 interceptions was not. So if I protect him and give him time, and I got a solid, dependable run game, really good run game, and I got 2 receivers that I'm very familiar with, can I just keep the touchdowns but cut down on the turnovers? So I have inside sources that tell me they worked on not turning the ball over in spring in Stillwater. Don't tell anyone that. But that's what I heard, at least. So I think Oklahoma State's underrated. I think Penn State's underrated. It's not just a Jesse special here. It kind of is, but I would not allow this in the show if I didn't believe it. It's an easy team to peg. Like we've known what Penn State is. Really good defense, good offense against the lesser teams, shut down against the better teams. That was what they were last year. I was at both of the shutdown games, so I should know. Andy Kotelnicki coming there from Kansas as the offensive coordinator is a very, very big move. In college football, assistant coaching hires, that's a very big move because they've got one of the best 1-2 combos at running back in the country. I have not sold an ounce of my Drew Aller stock, and I take heat for it every day. You guys have been using the poop emoji, talking about Drew Aller, and you should not be doing that because, number one, don't trash talk college kids on the internet. But number 2, Drew Aller's very good, guys. You've seen 1 year of him. Still got a chance to be very good. Tyler Warren's a top 10 tight end, I think. They got good talent at quarterback. He didn't turn the ball over a lot even last year. They just couldn't move the ball down the field. Well, they've got enough at wide receiver, and they certainly have enough raw talent at quarterback that if that offensive coordinator hired just takes root a little bit quicker than anticipated, I think they can scheme some explosivity. So some of the players were there last year. Just couldn't get it done with Yurcich. So now Kotelnicki is the guy. It's his turn. And I like to take a stop in Lexington, Kentucky this time of year because it's one of the most experienced offenses in America, and we've added Brock Vandagriff at quarterback, the transfer from Georgia. Dane Key, Davion Brown, top 2 wide receivers return here. The offensive line returns 4 starters with 15-plus starts. They're all upperclassmen on the offensive line. They did good in the portal, too, at wide receiver. I forgot to mention that. They've got a good 1-2 at running back. So everything I would need to believe in Mark Stoops and his offense up there, they've got. Every time I mention Kentucky, someone says, well, they're still going to be the same old Kentucky. Like, that's a bad thing. Kentucky has not been a bad program. I don't know why people say that. Oh, by the way, before we move on to the last segment here momentarily, I did want to mention something about scheduling. Is it really 8:10? I'm so sorry, people. But you know what? I promised you we were going over an hour tonight. Colin, you got that tweet about Cal? I mean, listen, what I'm about to do is one of the bolder things I've ever done on the show. We have got thousands of people watching live, and I am going to talk about Cal football and promise you that you'll be interested in it. Watch and see. As I peruse the college football schedules, and I get ready for all of us to be immersed in a world where teams on the Pacific Coast play in the Atlantic Coast Conference because the wrong people are in charge of the sport, I realized earlier today that Cal has 5 road games this year. Cal will travel a combined 24,000 miles for their road games this year. The Earth's entire circumference, for the 97 or 8% of you that believe it's round, is 24,900 miles. Cal is going to come very close to circumnavigating the globe in travel this year, and they only play 5 road games. And that's not even the most beleaguered travel team in California, because then someone mentioned, Josh, you need to look at UCLA. And I looked at UCLA. UCLA plays 6 road games at Hawaii, at LSU, at Penn State, at Rutgers, which is in New Jersey, at Nebraska, at Washington. UCLA, 24,650 miles logged on the road this year, falling just short as well of circumnavigating this great round globe of ours. And I look and I say to myself, of course, what are we doing? And then I think to myself, you know, there's a big difference here. Cal didn't ask for this life. Cal just lurched and grabbed the final life preserver they could. Cal had no other option. It was either the ACC or just fade into the abyss. UCLA chose this. So I don't feel bad for UCLA. UCLA was part of the movement that unnecessarily kicked this chain of events further down the road. They didn't start it. They just participated in it. So you guys can travel all the way around the world and back again. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. But my friends at Cal, all 5 of you, I feel bad. I feel really bad. And it just goes to show you, no matter how bad you think some of the folks who run this sport suck, they suck so much worse than you believe they do. No immunity, just full out suck. Never underestimate how much allowing the wrong people in the room can screw up life. Life is screwed up right now. And it's not going to be that way forever. Maybe it will be. But this just goes to show you, sometimes there have been things I've really dug my heels in on the show. And some of you, even if you kind of agree with me, I've looked in my DMs before and you've been like, man, okay, you made your point. Like, why are you so emphatic about this? Understood. Counterpoint. The reason I'm so emphatic about some of the things I dig my heels in on is because I know we can't go back. That's the nature of looking over a slippery slope. Once you are on the slope, it's too slippery to gain your footing. Well, some of this stuff was not hard to see coming, but it happened because there wasn't enough resistance to it. Not enough people appreciated the regionality of college football. Not enough people appreciated that you don't have to make every dime you can for the sport to flourish. Not enough people spoke up about that stuff. And so you're going to have Cal playing conference games against Wake Forest. You're going to have UCLA playing a conference game in Piscataway, New Jersey. They are closer to China than they are to New Jersey. Not literally, but you get the point. So I ran the numbers this morning. I couldn't believe it. I ran them again, and calculator on the iJosh was not broken. And nevertheless, at FanDuel, you can bet the over-under on UCLA right now if you want to, because FanDuel is the exclusive odds provider of our show. Here at Pate State, we do have an odds provider. We appreciate them. And as I mentioned earlier, right now it's July, so there are no games this Saturday. But guys, there is quickly on the horizon coming a day where it's Sunday, and we know that there are games 6 days from now, which means 5 days from now will be Friday, which will mean 5 days from now at night, it'll be Friday Night Lions time. Probably brought to you by FanDuel this year. If you don't know what Friday Night Lions is, don't worry, I'll explain it as we get closer. But it's the most secret, closed society, fight club, don't talk about it sort of thing that I do on Instagram Live at Late Kick Josh. And it is great. And we probably are going to need a password to get in. But once you're in, it's marvelous. And it comes to you from any form of motel or hotel in any small college town in America. It's great. It's wonderful. FanDuel has a lot to do with it, so I'll tell you more about that as time approaches. But make sure you're checking out FanDuel. And even if you're not betting today, check them out anyway. A lot of really good lines over there, a lot of really good information over there. And so it's fun to peruse even if you have no interest in betting. Okay, bold predictions is how we close the show. Bold predictions are the things that you claim you would bet your own money on, even if I don't challenge you to show me the betting slip. Scout's honor around here when it comes to bold predictions. First up tonight, Harsha hit me from Columbus, Ohio, and said, Auburn will beat either Alabama or Georgia on the road this year. Here's the thing. This is a 9.25 for me because Auburn has a really tough time in Tuscaloosa and Athens, and Auburn will be about a 3-touchdown dog against Georgia this year, and they are currently a 13.5-point dog at Bama. The games are way down the road, obviously, but those are the future lines. But the thing is, this almost happened last year twice. They, I think, led Georgia or were tied with Georgia in the fourth quarter, and Georgia pulled it out. But it was a dogfight. I was at that game. I was not at the Iron Bowl, but I watched from the rental car terminal in Detroit International Airport as Bama converted 4th and 31. So Auburn was like close against Georgia, really close against Bama. They win that game 99 times out of 100. You just happen to see the one. And so that was at home, though. This is on the road. It's tough. It's asking Peyton Thorne to go pull big upsets, and I'm not quite sure he's equipped to do that. So 9.25 on the boldness scale for me. Next up, I ask you guys to do a couple of things. Be respectful in the live chat. Don't bet parlays. That's all I ask. And Gage came at me from Gadsden, Alabama, and said, Clemson, Oregon, Utah, and Georgia all win their conference. He's throwing the parlay at me. Satan. No further context, just Satan. So Clemson has the second best odds to win the ACC. Oregon has the second best odds to win the Big Ten. Utah and Georgia are the odds-on favorites to win the Big 12 and the SEC, respectively. These are all courtesy of FanDuel. So Gage is not saying anything. Hold on a second. Hello, is this management?
I mean, it is.
Okay, I got to call you back because we're still on the air. You are live, by the way. We're still on the air.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk to you later. All right, so this is a parlay. It's just four-leg money line parlay here of sorts. We're going to win the conference for Clemson, Oregon, Utah, and Georgia. We have odds on this. We went over to FanDuel. They gave us the odds. It returns at plus 16,700. Which means if you bet $10 on this, you win $1,670. This is a 9.5. Even though all these teams individually have a good shot at winning this, it's a 9.5 because think about it. Even if they make their conference title games, they're really playing the second best team in that conference. It's no divisions anymore. So like Oregon doesn't play Iowa or something like that just because the Big Ten West is not good. No, they play Ohio State again, or they play Michigan or something like that. Putting a 9.5 on that. The call from management on air, unbelievable. Next up, This one wasn't all that bold to me, Stefan, from Hershey, PA. Penn State misses the playoff. Oh, I didn't see this. Parentheses. Because of James Franklin's terrible coaching. Okay, well, what if they go 9-3? That's not terrible. It's just not good enough. This is not 10 or trash mentality. We don't practice that around here. There is room between being elite and being terrible where most of the country resides. But this is an 8 on the boldness scale for me. Penn State is one of 7 teams with minus odds to make the playoffs. So they're technically favored, quote unquote, to make the playoff. They got a 9.5 win total. That's probably it. FanDuel's probably doing the work for you there. If they hit the over and they're 10 wins or better, they're probably in. If they hit the under, 9 wins or worse, they're probably not in. They'll probably be favored in 11 out of their 12, though. So some upsets have to be mixed in here or there. Maybe some lines have to change between here and there. But Penn State missing the playoff, it's not hard to envision. Having said that, Penn State making the playoffs is not hard to envision. So it's right at an 8. It's not all that bold. It's an 8. It's just a fairly solid, bold prediction. Lastly, Heisman talk here. Heisman talk alert. Dart, Heisman, lock emoji. So I guess Jackson Dart's going to win the Heisman Trophy. And given the lock emoji, why are we even debating it if it's already decided? This is an 8.5 on the boldness scale for me. He's got the 5th best odds to win it right now, plus 1,500 over at FanDuel. Dual threat quarterback, which most of them recently have been in some shape, form, or fashion, check. Loaded wide receiver room, check. Ton of returning experience, check. Spotlight program, check. Very high profile this year. A head coach that's going to feed him opportunities offensively, check. Check. So 8.5. I think Jackson Dart's going to be in it. And also, Ole Miss does not have a murderer's row of a schedule in the SEC, so they're going to be relevant late. If not playing for a conference title, they're going to be relevant late. So I'm going to put it at an 8.5. I think Jackson Dart very much could be in that thing. Okay. We sometimes don't even do shows this long during the season, but I had a lot to think about over the holiday break. So we're back. We never really left. I've got a late kick extra coming for you Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll be live again Thursday. Then we got a Sunday show. Then we're off to SEC Media Days, then Big Ten Media Days, and then fall camp basically starts. So if you haven't already, lock back in, even if you practiced an off season. Repent, that's between you and your maker, but then check back in and recruit as many folks as possible to follow you and subscribe to the channel while you're doing so. For producer Jesse, for director Colin, I'm Josh Pate. Take care. Have a great start to your week, and God bless.